Fingers in Pies podcast brought to you by Meron Freight UK.
Right, welcome to episode 14 of the Fingers in Pies podcast with Meron Freight UK. How you doing, Tommy? We good?
All good, thank you very much.
Esteemed guest, we've got another one of episode 14. Richard John Neal, welcome. How are you?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. You guys okay?
Yes, all good.
We're good.
Always shocked to get asked on these things because normally it's me asking the question, so I'm a little bit out of the comfort zone here.
I was about to say that. Usually it's you asking the questions. Being, if you don't mind me saying, a respected commentator and journalist and broadcaster, whatever the words are, they're all used on your LinkedIn, I'm sure. I just wanted to say how excited we were actually before we came over. We were chatting to one of our colleagues, and he was like, I'm excited about this one. Yeah. And I was like, looked at Sam, I was like, you don't get excited about anything. But he's excited about it, so he wants to hear from you, obviously. Before we crack on, I mean, how is everything with the Meron freight world, Meron motorsport management world? Everything okay?
Yeah, the motorsport management world's very busy. Obviously, lead up to the season and everything, and everyone just trying to get over the line and get their budgets together and different things.
Yeah.
So, working hard on that. But Meron Freight is very full warehouse at the minute.
Yeah, I saw it the other day. Yeah,
so a bit of content, you'll see all of that coming out. And luckily it's been going really well.
Good stuff. Richard, this podcast is far from serious, but it gives us an opportunity to quiz you rather than you quizzing other people. I mean, let's get straight into it, because we were having a chat a little bit just before during our sound check, and we'll go over it again, no doubt. I mean, your career, as it were, I guess is the best word. I mean, how we were talking about before we came in? How did you become a commentator? I guess a sports commentator that you've sort of been known for recently. How does that even start, if you want to take us back?
Yeah, I think you fall into it by accident. You know, it's a happy accident. But I mean, the roots of it go back to when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. You know, your passion for sports comes through, doesn't it? We were talking about football, weren't we, earlier on? I mean, let me ping the question back at you. When did you first get involved in football or like football?
I can't. Yeah, we're talking about 4 years. I've got older brothers, so
it's a kid's passion, isn't it?
Yeah. 4, probably my earliest memory. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and racing, same for me. You know, my parents used to take us to go and watch stock car racing every week. And one week, I took a picture of a driver that my brother was helping, who'd won a trophy, pinged it into the local paper. They printed the photo, and then the guy who was the editor on the paper said, "Oh, actually, this is great. You know, do you go every week? Yeah. Could you write some stuff for us?" Oh, sure. So I started writing for the local paper. So that was the background. You know, back when I was 12, 13.
Nice, the local paper.
Nice.
Yeah, starts with the local paper. I bet, you know what we're talking about, like that. I bet that's the case for quite a lot of people. Get involved with your local paper, kind of thing.
People of a certain age.
Yeah, I don't know. The Gazette's still going nowadays. I'm pretty sure they're on
online, aren't they?
The Chronicles.
It's not actually. Do you know what? In the Toka paddock, we still get youngsters come around. Writing for locals. And there was one youngster who was covering their Ford driver last year. Came up to me and said, "Just had my first byline." So he'd had his name on the article, and he was so chuffed.
That's fantastic.
So
we still have that, right? Yeah. In fact, being in the paddock last year, sort of as a driver. I noticed it, like kids coming up and actually wanting to do little interviews and just have little sound bites and things, and that's just from being in the mini side. So when they see the touring car drivers and going up to them and just getting a few words, which you have that accessibility to do, that's huge.
Yeah, it is cool. And I think we've had people come up and be like, "Oh, can I just ask him a question for my phone?" I was like, "Yeah, just go for it." Let's just go tap him on the shoulder. I'm sure someone will thank me for that every single time when he's busy. But so you fell into it sort of like that, but. I mean, how does it go to the next level? Because obviously, look, I mean, commentating on the BTCC, that's our link, I guess. That we've all worked within and around the BTCC, sponsor within the BTCC. We do socials there as well, which we're very, very lucky to do and have the access that we do. But then we've heard your voice on there for several years. But what was it before? Where did it start? When did you have a microphone like this in front of you and actually start calling sport as you see it?
Ooh. I used to hate speaking in public. I'm still not.
Oh, really?
I'm still not great. If you like dinner, people ask me to do dinner dance stuff, you know, and you stand up front of 60 to 100. I hate that.
Right.
Commentary's great because you're in a little box.
You're in your little
Nobody's looking at you.
I see eyes looking at you. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
But how did it start? So I wrote stuff for local papers and I actually got dumped on. I went to first broadcast work was football, non-league, and I was press officer at Crawley Town.
Nice.
Which is a convoluted story. If we had 4 hours, I could give you the full story. But anyway, so I'm press officer at Crawley Town. Non-league, we were Southern League Premier as it was back then.
Yeah.
And I think the third or fourth week that I was there helping out, it was FA Cup week. Now, normally the radio stations don't do coverage of, or didn't do coverage of non-league, but because it was FA Cup day, they took an interest, because was it the extra preliminary qualifying round? It's kind of before the rest of the season starts, isn't it? Anyway, so they said, could you phone the score in? It's your job to phone the score in at half time and at the end. Yeah, no problem at all. So I got some notes and rang, I think it was BBC Radio's Sussex. Yeah. And got through to this guy. He said, "Oh, hi. Yeah." I said, "Richard from Crawley, I've got the half-time score for." "Oh, can you hang on a minute?" "Yeah, okay." So I'm hanging on, and they're playing some music. The music finishes, and then the guy says, "Well, it's FA Cup day today in non-league, and with the half-time report from Crawley Town, here is their press officer." So I got put on and caught out, obviously delivered it. And then he said, "Right, that's great, thanks very much. Can you do the same again full-time?" So full-time I was a bit more prepared.
Wow.
But I got put on the spot. I always remember Ben Edwards saying to me, it's about getting an opportunity, but delivering, you've got to deliver. So I say lucky to get that opportunity.
I mean, time to get properly nervous either. In the fact that the music just stopped and it just threw straight to you.
I was more nervous for the end one.
Exactly. You had 45 minutes ago. I've got to take notes now.
So we did that, and so BBC did that, and they were really happy. And they said, "Well, actually, we'll cover you every week, so not just FA Cup." So they started covering Crawley Town every week, and then the local commercial station didn't like the fact that BBC were covering us, and they weren't. So they asked us for reports as well. So it kind of snowballed from sporadic radio coverage to regular weekly stuff with BBC and commercial. And then I started doing stuff for one of the commercial station outside and started doing other stuff for BBC. So BBC offered me a coaching session over at Guildford, BBC Surrey, and I started working for BBC Lancashire as a freelancer. So that's how the voice work started.
Wow. That's quite a cool story.
Love that.
It was just sprung on you to give a Crawley Town half-time report. Could you remember what the score was half-time?
I can't. No. I need to look that up now, don't I?
We need to know how Crawley were getting on. That's pretty cool. I mean, that is essentially, I think, when we talk to people about social media now, that thing hasn't really changed. That sort of ethos of put yourself out there, do it, and then all of a sudden you might be able to get a regular slot doing it if you like it and people like watching you or listening to you.
Right,
and
that time factor.
It doesn't change, and that's why we get so many people looking at social media, but like, I want to do that, and they start their own channel, and then before you know it, they're on Sky Sports, and it's like they just started their own channel, and it's really quite cool. Obviously, social media allows you to do that now. So that's how that started. So what sports are we talking? Where did you, were you then a football sort of reporting sort of person? And how did it then develop for you to, we've done a bit of boxing, right? You've done football, motorsport. There's probably not too much that you haven't done. So how does it go from there? You're working for sort of BBC as a bit of a freelancer. And then, how do you get to where you are sort of now?
It was all football to start with, and then one week I just wanted to basically take a weekend off because it was my birthday, and the producer at it was a radio, I think it was Radio Mercury down in Crawley, said, "Oh, okay, we'll skip it this week. What are you doing?" So I said, "I'm going to go and watch some motor racing." Nice. "Oh, could you cover that for us?"
While you're away.
So I'm down there with the Ewer, the great big old recording equipment that they had, so I went out with that and did some, and then of course being in a local environment, I worked a lot with the local journal. Crawley was weird at the time because getting away from the radio or the written side, it was the only town in the country at the time with 2 local papers that you had to pay for. Local papers now are free, aren't they? You get stuff in the door and junk and that. But back in the day, people would buy a paper locally. And there are actually 3 local papers, 1 freebie and 2 paid-for titles. So it was actually competitive between the 3 papers.
I grew up in Hand Cross, so it was literally, Crawley was my local
town,
I played at Crawley Town under 18s. Weirdly, it is really weird.
What's going on? You'll be reporting on you.
There's a bit of nepotism going there, isn't there? But Crawley, yeah, great club. But anyway, because of this, the thing with Crawley, and I was, knew all the journalists well, which you had to liaise with and being the press officer for the club. And then every so often there'd be a boxing match to cover, or American football match to cover, and I actually even wrote for the arts page, believe it or not, on the local rag down there, which was covering theatre and entertainment and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
All that was writing practice. And what helped me, I think, most of all, is when you've got a good editor who will pick holes in what you're doing, to be fair, and you'd see your copy, and then you'd see how it changed, if it changed at all. And that's how you learn.
I suppose you're relating that and seeing exactly what they think was better at that time, right?
So with this sort of, you find yourself in that sort of space that, this could be my career, this looks like it's where it's going to go. Do you find yourself, obviously passionate about sport, I should imagine, do you find yourself, I always wonder this, do you find yourself just reporting on the facts, or is there a little bit more of, I want to do more opinion-based stuff? I mean, because there is that, isn't there? You report on the facts, this was 2-0, I'm going to write a report or whatever. But then, is there more opinion-based stuff? Did you just have a passion for that sort of writing and telling a story almost?
I'd rather do the factual side of it. I think opinion... As a commentator, I've actually had a guy get me by the scruff of the neck for making a comment about him racing when we were...
You're joking?
Rockingham, when we were commentating Pickup Truck Championship, if you know that one, which is still going. And there was a guy there who had heard a comment that I'd made. What was the comment? By his mechanic. Again, I can't remember. It would have been something like the guy wasn't doing very well or something like that. And that's actually not me, because I tend to keep on the safer side of things. I think if you've got a co-commentator, that's their job maybe to be, and it's easy for me to say that.
Yeah.
But that's what they are there to do. You don't try and get there. But anyway, this guy came up to me after the race, got me by that, and said, "You said I did this and that."
Wow.
Which was so. I think that, and also the fact that in football, I had a guy come up to me and had, you know, they still rate the players.
Right, okay.
And if you were Crawley media, you might have seen we used to rate the players out of 10 every match. Yeah. And there was one guy in particular who was a left winger, Steve Norris, his name was. He's actually a really good player. And Steve Norris comes up to me on the coach one day. We're on the team coach down to Dorchester or somewhere like that. And he comes up to me, he says, "Why do you just give me 4 out of 10 every week? You hate me." And I said, "Steve, it's not me, mate." He said, "But your name's in the paper." And he got the paper, pulled it out, put it in front of me. He said, "There's your name." And I said, "Well, it is, but it's spelt wrong because it's the other Richard Neal." Because there was another Richard Neal on the Crawley Observer, and I was Richard Neal, the press officer. Which is why I use Richard John Neal. Yeah. So a lot of people say, "Why do you use 3? Why do you do that?"
Yeah.
That's why, it's to differentiate between.
Oh, right. It was to get you out of trouble with Steve Norris.
It was to get me out of trouble. with Novo. He was actually a very good player. But the other Richard was very. And you look back at some of the old papers, and there were some people there that were really actually they would really dig in and have a go at the players, or the management, or the chairman, who very often got a lot of unfair stick.
Yeah.
But,
of course.
To me, I've not tended to do that. I'd rather do a backstory, and that's like the thing about going around the paddock, finding out what people do, maybe finding out stuff that one of my colleagues said. Some of the stuff you come out with, the audience don't need to know it. Maybe not, but I just think sometimes it can add a bit of colour.
100% they need to. Yeah, I think, don't get me wrong. There's, like I said, we were just talking about audiences before we come on, wasn't there? But the more you know, the better.
I think that we were sitting on the grid at Donington waiting for the safety car to get they had changed one of the tyres. And it was all the chat about me and John Castle and how we actually decided to go racing. And it was done when we were drunk in Silverstone. It was just like, it was a bit of banter, why not? It was a bit of chat while we were waiting felt like eternity on that grid. But that was quite funny, actually. Yeah. I enjoyed that.
But that backstory, I think that backstory is almost crucial to getting to know more about those people that are out there doing their thing, because the fans are tuning into to the drivers, to the championship, or the boxing fight, or the football match. Those little tidbits, I mean, John Motson was the guy, wasn't he? He was absolute genius at it. Who just like literally would give you a fact about every single player and everything like that. And it was those little bits that people then take to the pub. Yeah. Go, oh, did you know that about that player? Did you hear what they said? You know what I mean? Like 100%. Like, and I think that's crucial. So, how much of that is actually involved? So that's another point I wanted to make about research. Like the research involved before you. I know it was sprung on you at Crawley Town that time. You had 45 minutes, but the research, for example, for a boxing fight, like you might not do that many, but you've got to go do that. You got to go do your homework, right?
Yeah. If someone came up to me today and said, would you cover about next week at Crawley AVA or something? And you'd have to go and
do your
for me to be comfortable knowing what I'm doing, you go through the fight history and
100%.
so on and so forth. So that kind of thing is you'd maybe talk to I'd definitely talk to the people beforehand as well. Give them a ring and find out something. And that's the equivalent of walking around the paddock at touring cars and talking to likes of Tommy and teammates and trying to find out what you can. And that's not work to me. That's not my job. It is my job. It's my business to do that, but I actually enjoy it.
Yeah.
Go around and chatting to everyone and getting the bits and bobs. What I would say is that if you've got a lot of trivia, so when David Addison's been away and I've stood in for touring cars, I'll do less trivia because people know the touring car drivers, but they don't know the support drivers. So to me, it's about maybe trying to give a little bit more to the audience, paint a picture of the drivers coming in the supports because they don't know them. Everyone knows the Tom Ingrams. Tom's not shy of a camera, is he? And the other drivers. So I think,
and that helps them, and that's exactly the point again, right? So it's about knowing the backstory of drivers and understanding how they've got to where they are and their plans for the future, maybe, and different things, and that only helps them. So it's great that you get that because you do get that bit of insight, and suddenly you're looking out for them people as well, and you find yourself as a bit of a fan of them, even in when they're just starting out. And I think that's great. That's what they need.
Is there still? We just talked about you said that's the bit of my job that I really love. So, and that's really, and we've all got that, right? I'm lucky enough to run my own business, and if I didn't love what we did, it would be a slog every single day. I'm talking about these guys behind the camera. Hopefully they feel the same way. But a little bit, what you do, in the whole motorsport, that you've got to love what you do to be able to get up in the morning and do it. Is there those times where you've got a job and you're like the rainy Tuesday night at Stoke? Is there one of those? Is there one of those you're like, I don't fancy this one? Is there a gantry somewhere where you're like, no, that's cold, that's horrible?
No, do you know what? I'm still in love with the sport and the people that I would not turn the gig down.
Right. Yeah.
At the moment, even if someone wanted me to go and commentate or present non-league football, I'd go and do that because I love.
You love it.
I love the sports. Yeah.
I think that element has got to be there, isn't it? Because I don't know. I guess I'm asking you: have you ever come across a commentator or a journalist that literally is like, "Why are you here? Why are you doing it?" Because I've never heard an unenthusiastic. It's the reason why they're on the mic, right? And they're doing the thing. I've not heard an unenthusiastic commentator, and if I have, I'm like, it makes a huge difference to what I'm watching.
I think. Most of them are enthusiastic, and they need to be because they're there. But we was at Brands a couple of years ago with my son.
Yeah,
and. Was just watching it, and I had really, really bad cold, man flu, lost my voice, and we were just sitting watching the press. And my son comes up to me and said, "This commentator, Dad," he said, "absolutely nothing of interest." So enthusiasm was there, but and and they're all if they weren't good enough, they wouldn't be there. That's
of course, yeah. I think that's the thing. Enthusiasm and knowledge is key to being anything. Look, sports journalism as well. Like how many times I read an article every week about something that's going on in football. Boxing is probably the second one as well, bit of tennis as well. You soon switch off and you soon know if it's a factual thing. I want to quickly know what happened in the game and I'm gone. But then the more opinionated stuff, you can switch off after the first paragraph if you're literally feeling that there's no substance behind that, or they've got something slightly wrong. And then all of a sudden you're gone. You've almost lost that credibility. Yeah. Is that always in the back of your mind? Like, I've got to have credibility?
No.
No?
You just do it.
You just do it?
Yeah.
I reckon someone starting out, maybe I don't know, maybe that could be a bit of a
Yeah.
worry if they.
I think you have to watch back what you do. I still watch back some of the work that I do to see whether it's good enough or, and I actually hate it.
Yeah.
And when we do media training, the most difficult thing for a young person or any person to do on media training is to record themselves and watch it back. But that's probably the most crucial thing to do.
Right. To see how you come across.
Talking about the commentary side, I was watching yesterday on the F1 channel, and they were showing the Indy NXT, so the one just below. And obviously in America they go to adverts every 2 minutes, it seems. But there's the same commentary. So you have commentary, and then it just sort of goes off while they show one of their many adverts, but they still leave the racing on. And you literally do zone out. It's so much about the commentary side.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I was literally watching the cars going around, and I was like, I'm so much less involved in this and intrigued. And then the minute they come back, you're like, oh, I'm back in it. It's weird. It really does have that. You put them together, and then the voices, like your voice, and you recognise it instantly, and you're just like, oh, I'm back in. Like season started again, sort of thing.
I think we're quite sport for choice as well in terms of coverage now, aren't we? I mean, there was the boxing card the other day that was on 3 different channels, and I chose to pay. There was a TNT. You could pay TNT for it. You could pay Sky for it, and you could have DAZN for it. And I had all 3, to which I was like, which one do I pay? And what's the cheapest? But then funny enough, if you're talking about a £5 difference, I'd probably pay a little bit more to have the better coverage, to have the better punditry, to have the better cuts, to have the less adverts, that sort of thing, the better commentators. Yeah. And that's mad to think I would do that, because before you just like, if it's moving pictures on, I don't really care what's but it's all part of it, and that's why it's quite crucial, because like you say, you're in the little box doing your thing, and you're thinking maybe people aren't necessarily aware, but then all of a sudden you get a bad bit of coverage, and you're like, oh god. You realise what you're getting. So, I mean, how long? I mean, is there any? How many years have you been sort of calling sport?
First commentary was 97, so I was actually quite late to the party.
Right. Okay. So in terms of what's your favourite? I mean, what's the thing closest to your heart? I guess the sport that's closest to your heart. No, I think in terms of sport, what do you like to call the most?
Racing, because it's. I mean, I'm known as a racing commentator. I'd love to do more football again. Yeah. I'm sorry that I never got to do more football commentaries, and particularly on radio. I think radio is just great, because you can shout and holler and nobody. If you shout and holler on TV, you get a lot of the people on the forums going, "Oh, he just shouts a lot. I don't like that." Right. Okay. And I'll probably do it less than I used to. Right. But with football, I think on the radio, you're not necessarily shout and holler, but you can get enthusiastic and
you have to literally put everything across, don't you, to show, because it's radio, because you can't see what's happening. Yeah. It's so much more. It must be so much more intense, the detail you have to go into.
Yeah, because people can't see anything. One of the things they did at the coaching, I remember it at Guildford BBC coaching, was they just gave you a blank screen to commentate on.
Oh, really?
And just talk over it. And actually, David Addison does that. If people say to David, "Can I send you a show reel?" And he'll say, "Well, not really interested in show reel, but show me what you can do talking to a blank screen." Because it's the bits that you need to fill, the difficult moments.
Right, I see what you mean.
So, and that's kind of like radio, because you've got to be a little bit more descriptive. Yeah. With TV, it's. I mean, I never consciously think, oh, it's TV, and you don't necessarily, you don't have to say what's going on the screen, because people can see it. A lot of the time, it's stating the obvious. But with radio, you have to pretty much describe everything.
Yeah, be very, very descriptive. So let's talk about. So you motorsport, obviously, known as a sort of racing commentator. So is there a certain series, there's some fond sort of memories in terms of what you've seen and commentated? Yeah, is there anything stand out?
Enjoyed. You got a driver in Legends, haven't you? I mean, Legends have been great fun over the years, and that was one of the first ones that I worked with.
It amazes me. You see them when they're on the touring car weekends, and you see all the support series, and other drivers generally are doing their own thing. The minute Legends are on, you suddenly see drivers just peering over the track, trying to keep an eye, because it's amazing racing. It's such good fun to watch. I enjoyed those. I mean, it was my first commentary gigs were the Legends were with the Eurocar Championship, which you may or may not remember,
which were V6 space frames.
Okay.
And it was kind of a answer to NASCAR over here, but obviously we haven't got any big ovals. And they ran reverse grid racing, which was great. The pickup trucks came from that as well, but it was reverse grid. It was all, and they were doing reverse grids before BTCC and anybody else did it.
Right.
And I remember a lot of people looking down their noses at Sonny Howard and Philip Bond and the people that brought that over and saying, no, that's not going to catch on. And actually, young man, you're not on the racing line, because they had drivers that would go around the outside.
Right.
And all this kind of nonsense, But that's a long time ago now. And it didn't take. Legends are still going, of course. Yeah. That pickups are still going. It's Harley, isn't it? The young guy you got in.
Yeah, he's going into it, and as a youngster as well, it's a good opportunity for Legends as well.
Yeah,
to have people going from karting into Legends, I think that's great. Like, because you can see, and it's going to help the championship massively. Big opportunity, and he's quick, so it'll be good to see him in that for sure. I'm looking forward to it.
But the thing that's changed a lot, because the costs now are just. I mean, every motorsport is expensive, but Legends isn't necessarily the starting place it used to be. But there are a lot of formulas where you can go in. Yeah. I mean, my son's looking at coming racing, and I'd say to him, anyone else that maybe hasn't got a big budget, go and race a C1, something like that. Just get in at that level, and enjoy it. Yeah,
the Coopers shocked me a little bit.
Yeah,
for sure. But yeah, I think that, like you say, the C1 bit of endurance racing, good fun. I was offered a seat in a KA for Snetterton next weekend for a 12-hour endurance. No. No, me in a KA. I struggle to get in my Cooper. I don't know how I'd be in a KA. I will do a bit this year of endurance stuff. Again, it's good fun.
Have you been testing yet?
No. No, I'm not racing this year, so not going to be. I'm more going to be behind the scenes, helping out. But I enjoy that side and seeing these youngsters coming through. I think it's great. The talent that's out there is incredible. It's just about seeing that opportunity, and the minute they have that opportunity, as long as they sort of work hard at it, you'll see the levels and the standards just throughout all the championships as well. Yeah. Obviously, we see the touring cars and what it is, but all of these support series, as long as we can get, because they're amazing drivers out there, as long as they can get the support that they need to actually race in them, then they'll all thrive, and it'll only get better and increase. But it is that struggle at the minute. It's the way of the world, I know, but that's what I'm sort of passionate about, trying and helping out. Yeah, for sure. So we'll see.
In terms of that sort of motorsport piece, we were talking before about the co-commentator's sort of job. So you talk about you're calling the shots, calling the facts. Have you ever had someone next to you where you're like, you're doing my head in, or
someone out there,
or have you always been a little bit like, no, we're here to work together and we'll help each other through it?
No, I've always enjoyed the people. There was one driver who did my heading because he didn't turn up. Sam Bird, I've never let him forget that. Every time someone mentioned Sam, and I think we were at Knock Hill.
Oh, really?
He was due to come. I think someone had just sort of done an off the cuff. Will you come and do a thing? And he couldn't do it. I can't remember who we got in, but yeah, I think a couple of short notice ones have been really good. Louise Richardson, who was in F4, came in and did a fantastic job. Nice, real good. Yeah, Huffy did a impromptu one with us as well. He was brilliant. Did he? He was great. But everybody at work, I mean, this is the thing, when someone's away, so say Paul O'Neill's off doing something or someone's off ill, the showrunner from ITV will get in touch and say, is it all right if we use so-and-so, or have you got any ideas? And I've never said no to anyone, and I wouldn't, because I think, if it's someone you don't know, how do you know you're not going to get on with them?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so, and literally nobody, Max Coates was another one who came in last knock-ins and did a coke on with us. But no, I've not worried about it. I just think, if someone says a lot, that's great. That's what they're there to do. Yeah, of course. So it's.
So that's and that opinion-based stuff. We were obviously talking before about Man United and Liverpool having two very biased commentators in Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher. Where do we sort of stand on that? Audiences are changing all the time. Social media has just blown it up, hasn't it? How we take in information and how we actually watch it. I don't think my son's, he's got a little bit, he's like year 7 now, right? So he's like just about to turn 12. Yeah. But his attention span, I know he's a kid, right? But we'll see what he's like when he's a bit older. But his attention span in watching 90 minutes is just nothing. But the highlights are right there. But the commentators are all are quite a key thing for him because he finds them hilarious. But in terms of how we changed that sort of that opinion-based stuff is absolutely welcome, it seems now, whereas it would have been maybe frowned upon a little bit, I think, back in the day where we were growing up watching football and boxing and stuff like that, where you had such a partisan sort of, they almost wanted you, almost the British thing, isn't it? It's like, oh, that's not the done thing, like you make sure you're neutral and professional. Now we're starting to see it go the other way. Are you starting to see that as well in terms of what you do, or?
I think ITV probably, because it's an afternoon. I mean, it's a weird one, isn't it? The touring car program, because it's the only, to my mind, it's the only one I think in the world where they cover the whole event all afternoon and not just the main one. I mean, I'm the sport commentator. But nowhere else do they do that.
No.
On terrestrial, or if we can still call it terrestrial TV, or linear channel. So it's a pretty unique program, and I think it maintains. I think we still have the standards of old in which probably don't get. So I know Paul O'Neill gets criticised and he gets passionate and he gets told off for that. Sometimes, a couple of comments last year, which he made. But that's why he's there.
That's exactly it. It's exactly why he's there.
Yeah, like when Paul O'Neill, in those minis, when those minis are like three or four abreast going into a turn, Paul O'Neill is, he must be, I mean, surely he's off his seat. And you must be like, sit down, kind of thing.
No, well, we stand up and commentate anyway.
Oh, right.
I couldn't sit there. It's a better energy, isn't it, if you're standing up?
Right, okay, yeah.
Doing that. So
maybe we should tell him to sit down.
I think there was one race he was commentated on a couple of years ago. I think it was at Croft. And I think it was watching Luke Appizzoli come back from the back of the field and watching some of the moves he was making. It was like he was in the car. It was like he's gone for this.
I think that's what you want.
Yeah,
I think it's
100%.
absolutely what you want. You know, when Tom was flying through at Donny last year, you know the marvelling at it is kind of what you want. So. And there's no real bias. There might be some bias. I don't know, Paul O'Neill he's been around that paddock for so long. You wouldn't know, but he might have people that he absolutely loves, and he might have people that, you know, he doesn't feel that much. That's just human nature. But I don't think we actually mind it. I actually quite like it. I quite like if I heard, for example, you know, let's just say, you know, you've got teammates or ex-teammates going and they're supporting them and they cheer when they go over the line. I'd find it hilarious. But it's weird because, isn't it? Because you are dealing with quite a faithful following in that paddock, and I reckon some people will be like, that's not very neutral. I don't know if it has to be anymore, I guess, is what I'm kind of getting at. But yeah, I'm not sure what you think about it.
I think there's very rarely anybody in the paddock that I don't like, but there are people that I haven't spoken to.
Yeah, of course.
And you try and not make more effort, but you try and be inclusive of everybody in the paddock. You know, even the guys that are at the back of the grid, because somebody at the back might be at the front next week.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
You've got to try and bring that on.
Yeah, and you got to know about them as well. Yeah. So you got to actually make that effort to actually know who's joining it, because it isn't all about the front three, right? It's all about and that podium.
Yeah, that's it. And I think there's going to be. There's a lot of movements this year, obviously, in the touring cars with people in different teams, and you know, there's a bit of unknown with how it's going to. What it's going to look like and on the grid and positions and things. So I think it's going to be quite interesting to see, you know, how
Colin
this year.
That's a big story, isn't it?
It is a big story. And it's a tinge of sadness. What I've seen on the forums and the fan forums and stuff. It's just a lot of people.
I'm sad he's gone. I mean, I've talked to him. His son was at the Fiesta Scholarship last year.
Oh, okay.
And spoke to Colin and Louise were there, obviously, and just having a little natter with them and. Nice guy, very nice people. Yeah. The lad's a great lad as well.
Yeah.
He'll do well.
I was going to say, it won't be long before you see another Turkington in the touring cars. I don't think he's definitely on that trajectory, isn't he?
But when he announced he was packing up, I was genuinely sad that he's not in it this year.
I think it's a massive miss. We did a evening with Tom Ingram recently, and he talked about that year of 7 champions or whatever it was when he joined the BTCC or whatever, and they all in a line in a photo, which is quite cool. And you had Jordan, you had Plato, you had Neil, Turkington, Menu, you had just loads of people. But Turkington now not being there. I mean, we've only been involved since 2019, and Turkington was obviously champion that year, and an absolute monster and god of touring cars almost, and he's not there at all anymore. And it is a weird one.
Be a miss for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, it is. But in terms of the actual support race paddock, then surely minis has got to be one of the most exciting things to commentate on.
It's brilliant, I love it. Had a message from Rhea, who's running it now, just before we came. We've got the E-Series coming out. I've got to get a plug in for the E-Series, Summer E-Series. If it's not gone out yet, it will do. So maybe
that might be the racing that I do this year.
That would be good, Tom. We need to get or maybe even co-commentating with us. Come on.
There we go. Do it. Yeah, give it a go. Yeah.
But yeah, Minis is fantastic because you've got that double level, so they can, the tracks that the JCWs aren't as comfortable on, we could get Coopers in. So we always have Minis are there all the way through the year. And the racing's great. Proven as a ladder to get people through. I mean, you look at Maximus Hall, was in the Coopers, he's gone up to JCWs. And I remember chatting to him at Brands when he did his, at the end of year before last, when he did his first JCW one, and said, touring cars next is, he'd like to. Yeah. Actually, I don't think we're allowed to do accents now, are we?
We can with Max, it's fine. We've done it to his face many a time.
And, it was, I remember making the comments in the race that he wants to get into touring cars, and they've done it, and I'm so pleased for him. And he's a great little peddler.
He's exciting to commentate on as well, isn't he? There's some people even saying like, what's Max Hall going to be like? Is he going to ruffle a few feathers? He puts his foot down and worries about the rest later, doesn't he? Is that kind of what he is?
Yeah, he won't hold back.
Yeah. The minis as well. The reason I mentioned the minis was because whenever it was on the TV, like I say, we'd have an RV, we'd go back and we'd edit in that RV. So we'd be doing a lot of social content. But the minis going around Thruxton or something like that, and you hear Paul O'Neill shouting from the thing, and then probably you trying to calm him down or maybe ramp him up, I don't know. But when they're literally and there's always we did crash montages, didn't we, and everything like that. It just seems like it's kicking off all the time. So. And the TV screen, the cameras are always chopping and changing, aren't they, to an incident? I mean, do you just know, like, okay, the next half an hour is going to be chaos or whatever? I mean, is there a little bit more of that than with other series, or so how do you sort of prepare for that?
In our heads that the Saturday races are usually okay, and as soon as the ITV cameras on it live on a Sunday, it's red flag or safety car.
that was my hardest part at the Silverstone. My clutch went on the actual start line for the TV race, because I just had the race before I won the Directors' Cup with the wet one, when it was literally a Harvey got hit and it ended up being red flag. But my onboards from that are insane, because you can't see anything and you're suddenly coming down straight and you're braking as Mini's going in all directions because it was tough. It was very tough conditions, honestly. But yeah, there's me and sort of Manning, me and Fitzgerald like bumping each other down coming into the first cut, and you're like, it's mad, so mad. But the racing's insane. It's awesome. I think that the race at Donington last year, we had 9 different leaders within this. I was obviously out the back, but I came in and watched it afterwards. I was like, because Gabe was in there, one of my teammates, and Harvey, and I think it was one of the best races of that weekend, and it was the TV race, and everyone was clean. It was really good racing, and it was a perfect showcase for the Coopers, that race particularly. But yeah, it does get a bit manic, especially that last one of the weekend where you're just going, right, everyone in, full pelt. There's a gap there. But 4 people are trying to go for that one gap.
I just wonder if you'd sort of prepare yourself a little bit more, but like, all right, strap in. This is going to be a crazy race.
It's not been as bad the last couple of years, because the organisers have kind of listened in to. We were getting this really weird situation where you'd have race 1 would be fastest off the front, which is on a Saturday. Whoever got pole, and inevitably pole sitters tend to be top of the championship. And we found ourselves on Sunday, when you got the reverse grid racing, saying, oh, well, actually, the championship leader, who's had 2 race wins this weekend, is starting down in 10th place. And then they're having a struggle to get up. And it happened with Ginetta as well, with Super Cup. You had guys leading the championship, and we didn't see them win a race on ITV.
Right.
And I think whether somebody from ITV had a word with Ginetta and Mini, but obviously it's changed now. We have the fastest off the front is the feature race, and that's race 3. So there's probably less. And that's better for the TV schedule because in theory, and I say in theory, stress that, there should be less carnage or out of position driving.
That's the new format that came in, obviously, beginning of last season where they did that. Obviously, we were going into, for example, Snet at Crawley, and you had 15 minutes. Well, a Mini Cooper around Snet takes a bit of time.
Yeah.
Right, so you've only really got 5 laps, 6 laps max, and they're taking your top 2 times. So the consistency in it matters as well, hugely. You know, your second quickest time was your position for race 1. Your first quickest time was position for race 3, and then where you finished race 1 was where you started race 2. And it does work, like you say, the feature race, it makes sense to have. If you've got the quickest time of the weekend on TV, you should be starting on pole. That's the point. And so I think it works quite well. But it is mayhem. The whole minute, and this season I think it's going to be great. I think there's a lot of youngsters coming into it, and there's going to be a lot of cars on the grid. And I think the Coopers especially are going to look fantastic. I'm excited to see I've got 3 drivers in it. I've got Olivier Algieri, Jamie Keats, and Will Crudson, who comes from the Saxos. And it's going to be exciting to see how they all get on, for sure. Hopefully not too near each other.
Is there a time, so as a commentator, and especially in motorsport, the last few years, I can think of a couple of times where you've got a little bit of domination. So we had Ash Sutton, in fairness, that was quite. I think Tom was going this last round was mathematically possible, but Ash Sutton dominated that year a couple of years ago. And then we've also had like Harry King, for example, springs to mind of where we're sitting right now, but Harry King to it, where he was lighting up that. Were you commentating on the Porsches at that time?
I did one of the rounds.
So there was a real, and whether it be yourself or someone else commentating, there was a real thing that all eyes on Harry. And if you've got to be careful with that sort of aspect, like, okay, there's a lot of other drivers on the grid, there's a lot of other drivers, but also we've got to call it as we see it and how the audience want, because everyone was like, where's Harry starting? Right, 7th, let's see how how quick he can get to first. Yeah. Does it kind of come, you've got to call it as you see it, but also you've got to be a little bit respectful, there's other drivers on the grid. How do you sort of deal with that sort of thing?
We had that with Deegan Fairclough, didn't we, last year with F4, and there was a young lad who was he 3rd position his first season in it, and then comes back last year, so he was the top seed coming back, but he with no disrespect to anybody else, he wiped the floor with them last year.
Yeah. So you've got to be mindful of, look, I'm just going to call this as I see it, rather than playing the sort of thing. The
TV coverage can sort of play to us a little bit in that if Deegan Fairclough is leading a race, and with the feature race of the weekend being the live one we're seeing, he's on pole position and he gets away.
Yeah.
He's away. That's fine. If he's away in the distance, the directors aren't covering that.
Of course,
they're looking at the battles elsewhere, maybe the Rookie Cup or otherwise.
True.
So that helps us, not have to wax lyrical about it. But you'll give credit where it's due. I mean, he wrapped the championship up with, I don't know, was it 5 races to spare, and he'd had a couple of DNFs as well with no drop scores.
Yeah.
It's almost there's with audiences and with people, and especially with sport, there's I don't know if you've ever felt like this, and I guess I'm going to make my question for you. You can't win. Sometimes you can't win. Like, do you remember when back in the day when we were younger, Man United used to dominate and win every title, and even I was, the commentators, they love Man United, they support Man United, don't they? And even now, you're like, are they on their side? That kind of thing. Have you had that? Do you get that sort of feeling that's just the curse of the commentator?
I've had people come up and say, you don't talk about them or talk about them. And, okay, we try to, but the best thing to do is come and chat to us in the paddock. If I don't get around to see you, come and say hello. Yeah. Ping me on social media, make a time to come. I mean, me personally, I'm a bit of an anorak. I keep a checklist of drivers, right? And if I haven't spoken, when's Thruxton? Is that normally the 3rd event of the year? Yeah. And usually in F4 particularly, there's a couple of drivers. F4 can be a weird bunch because they are just focused on their data. They're not interested in talking to media. Yeah. So they'll just sit in the trucks. So you actually have to go in and at the right time. But if I haven't spoken to a driver by round 3, Thruxton's great because the commentary box is the shed on stilts next to the holding area. And it's great because you can actually go and say hello to a driver before the race and then zip up into the commentary box. So generally by Thruxton, I've managed to speak to everyone. But yeah, people do say, oh, you haven't done this or you haven't mentioned that. But, unless we get that information, and we can. I mean, when Janetta were on the package, I'd be covering 100 drivers a weekend. Mm-hmm. You can't physically talk to 100 different people in a weekend. Of
course.
I have a proper conversation with all of them. Yeah. And it's not just the drivers. You've got entourage as well. You've got engineers. You've got the youngsters, the juniors. You've got the parents to talk to as well. Mm. So you can't physically. So anybody watching this podcast, if they want to get involved, come and talk to me, make the contact, and give us the stories. The stories is the important thing.
Yeah, indeed it is. Yeah, I mean, in terms of, let's talk about last season. Let's talk about some touring cars then, because it seems to unite us a little bit. The most exciting climax to a touring car season we've ever seen, right? Yep. Last year, incredible.
Absolutely amazing.
1 point separating them two. Didn't fall our way. I say our way. Obviously, we are firmly in the Tom Ingram camp.
Not
that we're biased or anything. Sorry, Jake. I worked with Jake as well, actually, funnily enough, a long time ago. But yeah, firmly in the Tom Ingram camp. Have you ever seen anything like that, as close as that?
No, it was great, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I didn't even see Alan Gale walking around with a script, to be honest with you.
Yes, Which is the accusation.
It was great, and I love Tom because he was one of the drivers that I used to cover Formula Kart Stars back in the days.
Okay.
With Andy Spellman and his crew, and Tom was one of the first. Tom and Max Coates actually they were always there, always ready to do interviews. They've always made themselves available. So I've always known Tom and his folks since then, and obviously known Jake pretty well, working with his dad as a co-pilot. And Simon was great value, as Paul is in the commentary box. Great fun. So it was genuinely for me, I think, if someone said, who do you want to win?
Yeah.
It was nice that Jake got his first one, but I would not have been upset if Tom had won another title, to be honest. It genuinely is I was genuinely neutral on it. Yeah. But what a fantastic end to the season.
It was crazy.
We were gripped by it.
I know, and that's the word, isn't it? I think everyone was. Yeah. Everyone was absolutely gripped. I've never known anything like it. It kept us right up until the end. But it was a weird thing because obviously we were lucky enough to see the elation of when Tom won it. But the pin, you could hear a pin drop. Once we knew, once he come over the radio and said, my tyres are gone or whatever, I've never known it. It was like a morgue. Yeah. There was people crying.
There's nothing you can do about it, right? It's the weather that sort of had an effect, obviously, on that.
Did, yeah.
And lent it one way, should we say? But you could see how hard he was pushing, and then on tyres that were dying, just going, I can't do a thing. Oh, no. And it just fell that way. And 100%, for Jake to win it, congrats to him, because it was a fantastic championship throughout.
Yeah, right? Unbelievable.
And in that weekend, you had Colin doing his bit as well.
I know.
Helping out.
Yeah, we remember that.
Messing about.
We remember that. Thanks, Colin.
Yeah.
We remember that.
And even Ash, obviously, what happened to him in the first race, but then throughout the rest, he was involved in everything that was happening. It was just an amazing weekend, that. But the championship itself, I think this year is going to be very interesting to see what happens.
And so obviously, following careers of people, I mean, we just said your research is really integral to Pride. You just said about karting as well. You followed these people. You must get to see these guys and girls go from here to here. That must be quite a rewarding part of your
It's
job.
really nice. So, I mean, they all leave me, don't they? I said to Lydia Walmsley the other day, we were doing an E-Series race, and I said, well, you're off now, you're into Porsche. So it's, and they all go, they all fly the nest, which is, it's bittersweet, but it's nice to see how they go. I mean, like Harry King.
Yeah.
Moving up from Janetta Juniors, and great thing for us this season is I haven't actually commentated on him race, but we did some media training with Isaac Hajar, who's in F1 this year. So he's our first media trainer who's got to Formula One, which is mega.
Wow,
and he was really funny. He came into, I can't remember if it was the Janetta Summer Camp or the scholarship, but we did an interview with Ruth Harrison, who's looking after the PR for Janetta at the time. And I remember this little lad comes in, he's French Algerian, Isaac, and he comes in and they stand in front of us, and usual question, tell us about yourself, and And then I remember Ruth saying, "So what's your ambition?" And she's Formula One. I've always remembered it, and as it's been going up the ladder, I've recounted the story so many times, and now I can say he actually is in Formula One.
He's going to be a character as well.
Yeah,
he's going to be
great. He was really good.
He's going to get a lot of fans. I think people are going to love the passion for him because he is. I remember watching him sort of like throughout the last couple of years when he's sort of been talked about as such, being a Red Bull Junior and things, and you take notice, and he's definitely a character.
Yeah,
you know, on the radio especially, like he's known for his outbursts and different things.
Yeah,
but you can see how happy he was at the sort of launch. He was like a little kid in a candy shop, running down with his helmet like to see the car. It was brilliant.
Yeah, it is brilliant. That's a cool. But yeah, like I say, you get to see these people go from here to here. Max Hall being one of them as well, going into a touring car. That was a bit of obviously a bit of a surprise from our point of view, because we were covering him in minis, and then all of a sudden we saw the announcement. So we're like, oh wow. But yeah, it must be quite a weird, but also a really, really nice thing to see people go from sort of strength to strength. This year, touring cars. There you go, I'm going to put you right on the spot.
If you weren't going to ask, I was going to ask.
I'll put you right on the spot. Obviously, we know that everything's last minute with touring cars. There could be some more people added. We've talked about how Turkenson's missing, which is a gutter. But yeah, what are we thinking? Is there an angry Sutton that's going to come back firing? Is there Jake second one in a row? Tom going to get it? Go on. What are we thinking?
The thing is, you can't write any of them off, can you? I mean, like Ash Sutton is always going to be there or thereabouts, as is Tom. Jake now has got the monkey off his back.
Yeah.
And you know what it's like buses, isn't it? One turns up and so he's got that chat, and that will make a difference psychologically. Will make a difference to him. But then you've got new drivers coming. Charles Rainford's been very quick in the Porsches. He's slotting into BMW. I'm really excited to see what he does.
There's a lot of people excited about it.
His brother's playing for a team I used to help in football. Actually,
oh really?
So that was really funny how that came about. His dad, Sean, was like it's in my posts on social media. And so which Sussex shouted at me, which Sussex team do you involve? So I went and had a chat about which team, and he said, "Oh, my older son plays. So Alexander plays in a pretty good standard senior football." And I said, "Oh, he won't come and play for our lot because there's no money." He said, "Oh, well, you don't know." Anyway, so what happens next? Start of this season, I haven't been down this year to see the team, but Alexander Rainford top scorer for the team that I'd mentioned. It's the Southern Combination, so it's the old Sussex County League. They kept the initials SCFL, Southern Combination, so it's like Division 10 if Premiership is 1.
It's got Prem 1 and 2 now.
It's a good level, isn't it?
Yeah, there's some good players down there. And Alex was playing a league above, but he's kind of dropped.
I recognise the name, that's why I was...
Yeah, he's good. Yeah, he's been.
You can say we give you credit for that. You made that happen then.
Well, I've had a couple of players get in there. Our next door but one neighbour used to infuriate us. He'd kicking the ball against the wall all the time. Used to drive my missus absolutely nuts. Yeah. And bumped into him one day and said, "Hey, Rich, how you doing? All right?" I said, "Are you playing? Who are you playing for?" And he was trying to get in at Carshalton, which is a reasonably good local stand. I said, "If you get fed up, come down to Oakwood in Crawley. It's just down by Gatwick Airport." And he said, "Oh, okay." I never thought any more about it. And then. Again, missed you know them. Sussex.
I used to play for Hayward Heath Town, and then Oakwood were like, one of the nemesis team.
And anyway, so looked on FA full time, and this kid's name came up. So he'd gone down there to train, and he did an under-23 game, and then got in the first team straight away. So,
nice. So you're a scout as well.
I should be on for some money somewhere.
What's going on? Got a head scout. Put that on your LinkedIn.
But the thing, what struck me about both of those two going, and people say it's not what you know, it's who you know. It is what you know, but it does help if you've got a good network, and that's where what you're doing is really going to help a lot of youngsters in racing.
Yeah, hopefully so. Yeah, just trying to open a few doors and make conversations for the ones that maybe aren't quite confident enough to do it, and I think that's just a little help, nudge in the right direction, or in the direction they want to go, and open a door. So it is who you know and different things. With my dad runs Cookville Rangers, who are Mid Sussex Prem.
Oh really?
My dad's had that team.
How's the guy that broke his arm at the weekend? Is he okay?
He had a spiral fracture.
That's, yeah.
So he's got to hold it for 6 weeks, but and obviously if it
Is he
moves,
okay then?
he's okay. Yeah, Dad told me about that. It wasn't a very nice one at all.
Yeah, it makes it sound like I know everything about football, doesn't it? Just
My
pinging
God.
about it during the weekend.
I'll leave you two to talk about the Crawley or the Sussex League Combination League or whatever it was. There we go.
Yeah, that was he rang me up and I was like, oh, how do you even do that playing football? That's got to be a nasty, just freak accident, I'm sure. But yeah, so yeah. What I was saying. Yeah, that's
Hey, we're back to the Touring Car Championship.
We've digressed. We usually do. But yeah, touring car. I mean, who you tipping? If I had to,
I think it's Sutton's turn again.
Sutton. Yeah.
Napa don't mess around. If they don't win it, they come back strong.
Not want it.
And it happened before, didn't it? 22.
Yeah.
And they came back in 23, and Ash was.
I think you can't look past those big three.
Cavendish did a decent year, though.
Yeah,
well, he started
exactly,
really well, didn't he? I'll tell you what, I was watching on Limit stuff. I forgot how that Cavendish actually started with like a bit of a train, didn't he? But I don't know. Those three for me are fast. I don't know, maybe I'm a little bit biased and a little bit wet behind the ears because I've only sort of seen it since 2019. But they are, I feel that they're in the forums, the fan forums, everything like that. They do say Hill, Sutton, Ingram.
Yeah, I think you got.
It turned out it was like that last year.
You got an interesting one with the other drivers come in, like you say, Charles Ransford. You got De Leon's going to be quick in the rear wheel drive as well. Mm-hmm. And you've got Aaron Taylor-Smith in the Toyota, who I think is going to be.
He had a good year last year.
Good year last year, and that's going to be.
Yeah, well, Cook.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's really tough to call.
So I've just said the big three, and you've just named about 7 more.
Now
the whole group will be safe.
Yeah, but it's interesting. It's going to be the first couple of rounds. Obviously, I think there's going to be very track dependent situations as well. That's where you might see where it differs a bit. But otherwise, I think they're all going to be, as it is usually, very, very close. Yeah. I don't know if there's going to run away with it. I don't think anyone's going to run away with it.
Yeah, hopefully not. I mean, don't get me wrong. We'd love Summerlingham to win every single race, but how much of a spectacle it was that last round, because of how close it was absolutely awesome to be part of. I know it didn't go his way.
You then got the situation with the hybrid as well, and then how they've actually been in the winter and how they've adjusted to it. So you could get shocks coming in, you could have shocks going the other way where you think someone's at the front and they're not going to be.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting for that first round for sure, even testing, seeing how people are getting on.
I think the accelerator, the experienced team now, right? Morgan, Chilton, and Ingram, just team experience. That's it. Like, there's no one else that can sort of rival that as a team. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. A lot of youngsters coming in now, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, they've been around for a little while. Are we the old boys? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I think so.
Going back to minis, I mean, that's the great thing about mini. You've got some great experienced, fast youngsters coming up through karting, but also you can have, certainly in the Coopers, you can have brand newcomers coming into racing as well.
I think there's a lot.
It's a big ask for someone to come in.
Yeah.
And, he's putting your reputation on the line, isn't it? Even if you haven't got a reputation, you're putting something on the line, getting out there and potentially making an idiot of yourself. But people don't. They get out there and do it.
Yeah, it is mad.
It's tough to drive them little Coopers as well. They're not easy cars. You can watch it and you can go, okay, the racing's cool. They're just Coopers, You got to be right on that limit to get anywhere near, And I remember testing, and it was February, and it was 2 degrees, and trying to get heat in the tyres was nigh on impossible. Coming around Coreham, going, this is horrible. When there's 30 of us, it's tough to get your head around exactly what you got to put into them. But I think the racing that's going to be mega because you have got some very good youngsters coming into that, and I think that championship actually will be really good this year. I don't know much about what's happening with JCW and who's in it this year, or the sport. But the grid's looking, hopefully they'll get a decent number out. But we'll see.
Yeah, we will indeed.
Porsche will be strong.
I think, touring cars will always be as close racing or whatever, wasn't it? It was just, it's just chaotic.
Your big F1? No?
Really?
I do follow it. We were saying again about, how many different channels carry sports. There's so much now. Motor racing wise, you can just spend all day, every day watching racing and F1, yeah, I watched the highlights.
Yeah.
Started watching the IndyCar highlights as well from last weekend. It's the pinnacle of our sport. So to say I'm not interested in it, I am interested in it. And obviously with Isaac getting up there, we know.
Yeah.
Obviously Lando's it. Lando, I remember Lando rocking up in juniors with these little suitcases juniors on the Brands Hatch first round. And that was all secret squirrel. You know, nobody people knew he was coming in, but it wasn't an announcement because they didn't want to put any pressure on him.
Yeah. I showed my daughter, she races in the Jamie Chadwick series for the go-karting, which she just did last weekend. I showed a picture of Lando when he was in the Genettas and stuff again, and she was like, "Oh wow!"
There's one. There's that one next to Stella Proctor on the podium, which is hilarious because Stella Proctor's like Lando's here, which we've reminded Senna of a number of times. To be honest,
let's talk about Senna coming back to touring cars.
Fingers crossed. It. That'd be cool, wouldn't it? That would be good.
Some names that you definitely want to see in there. That I haven't heard and you're like, oh come on, because there's good races out there.
I think the final thing, one of the final things I wanted to talk about and get your opinion on it was that shift in how we sort of watch stuff. Now, we've discussed this on a number of podcasts. It's the social media element, but find it from your point of view who have been doing what you do for some time, like people getting involved in commentating, in having their own watch-alongs on YouTube and everything like that, having their own sort of opinion-based TikTok channels and everything like that, like almost like they're doing their own football reports. Like my son, I was like, who are you watching? I heard him talking, there's some person talking about Tottenham. Who are you watching now? And I looked, and I was like, they've got their own panel show, like literally on the
like the Sky Sports panel,
literally like this. They're literally like this. They're sitting there and they're going straight into live, and he's watching them. He's like, oh, this is this influencer I watch, and I was like, who are they? They've not even played the game, but super massive numbers, like huge numbers, like these people did. So almost like these people that want to crack on, do it, and just start a camera, do it. You just sort of like. Is there a case of just go out there, do it, and find for yourself, or do you think there's some sort of training that they need to do, or do you think no, they'll just find their way? Well, is there an opinion on it?
I think just do it. I mean, it's different to when I started now because papers and radio isn't. I don't know. There's more media now, so just do it. Do it to enjoy it. That's the thing, and the doors will open if you people like it. Yeah,
and that's it, isn't it? I think doing it to enjoy it is the main thing. I mean, I went to my daughter's Year 9 options evening the other day. I mean, we showed her media studies, and she didn't even know what it was. And then the woman, the teacher, started to explain it, and she was like, "Oh, this is cool, isn't it?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's not too bad. I mean, do you want to do it?" She's like, "Oh, it doesn't seem like schoolwork." And I was like, well, you're going to have to do something.
Wait till we get into this curriculum.
Exactly. When you get into it. I said, this is the thing. I said, but it's a lot more interactive. They're almost like encouraging them to literally put all their ideas on like a bit of paper. But now, with the emergence of how we sort of take things in, you almost like, I don't know, like if I'd been a commentator for years, I almost feel a little bit resentful that I'm looking at this kid doing it and getting millions of views.
That's like the footballers in the 80s, 90s getting paid couple of grand a week, and now they're all on like £500,000 a week. And you're going, it's wrong here.
That is true. I don't know. I think I'd always been a bit, but I mean, it is. I guess it just it's a weird and wonderful one. I mean, we've got like young kids and we're always worried about what the hell they're looking at on phones and stuff like that. But at the same time, the opportunities for them in this world of media, commentary and stuff like that are just so much more, I should imagine.
Yeah, there are. I mean, we get quite a lot of people asking about, can they come and do esports stuff, esports commentary, which is a popular way in.
Yeah.
And that's a great way of practicing commentating on a race.
Yeah.
But a couple of people that have asked me for advice the last couple of years, and again, I'm not always on social media. I do the odd bit here and there. My advice to people is get in the paddock.
Yeah.
Esports commentary is great, but get in the paddock, talk to the people, and get those connections. And the drivers are getting younger.
Yeah.
So therefore, the commentators and presenters are going to get younger. It's just a fact of life,
It is.
So I don't resent any youngsters coming in for sure. It's actually good to see that the sport and the industry will carry on in good hands.
Yeah, it will grow. Absolutely, it will. Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll be talking about Tilly at some point on the commentary.
We'll see. She turned around to me the other day and went, "I want to be the," because obviously we've got Hannah Chapman, you see Lydia, you see Katia, you see these girls now and then in the Porsches, for example. And Tilly turned around to me, and she's 12. She turned around and went, I want to be the youngest female driver in Porsche. I was like, oh, okay.
Right. Have we looked at the age? When did she have to start driving?
I'm assuming it'll be Katia.
Oh, okay.
So 19?
Possibly, I don't know. You're asking for a stat now that I don't have. Yeah.
I don't think. Maybe. And who else did club sport? Female did club sport.
I have no idea. Did Esme Hawkey? How old was?
Not sure. It's going to be young.
Yeah.
She's going to need to do it at 16, 17.
Oh my word.
But
and what was your comeback, by the way,
start your window cleaning business. go start bringing the money in now. Because it's a whole different kettle of fish. There's me putting, creating a bit of a brand for her now, which I think, any carters and everything, like you need to do that to get yourself out there and be confident in front of camera and learn these things. But we turned up to the Jamie Chadwick series last weekend at Tamworth at Daytona, and there's a good 60 girls there, all very, very good little racing drivers, and the racing was mega as well. And I threw her in the deep end and threw her in the Solis, which is 14 plus, and she's 12. She did her assessment on the Friday, it was fine. And she's fearless. I was like, she puts the visor down, it's a totally different girl, that's amazing. Confidence comes out, and that's why I know that she loves it and that she enjoys it and it brings the best of her. If I'd have put her in it and sort of forced her and she didn't really like it, I'd be like, look, do what you want to do. We can go and have a bit of fun. But she gets into it and it's just like a totally different, the confidence that she has. The minute she has her helmet on is so good to see. And, as any parent, you'll give the best opportunity possible to go and succeed. But motorsport's one of them worlds where it's not always possible.
I think it's more difficult for girls to get in. I mean, because it's great that a lot more are doing the cars now, as you say, but a lot of people turn around and say, oh, well, it's easier because you're a girl in that sport. It isn't. It really isn't. And there's a lot more, I think, psychological baggage for girls to carry into racing about how they're going to be seen. And so I don't think it's an easy option at all for girls to come into sport. And the great thing I do like about racing is that, as you said, when you got your crash helmet on, the suit on, the spectators can't tell the difference. And it's the same with junior racing.
Yeah.
You can watch a junior race.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the whole that you don't know.
Yeah.
People then ask me about, what do you think about, F1 Academy and should women have separate races? And I don't mind that, again, if it promotes drivers, and there are drivers in there like Alicia Pomorski, who would not have the budget to do anything else. Is a fantastic opportunity for her.
Yeah.
So I know it's not necessarily the way she wanted her career to go if she'd have written out what she wanted to do. Same with Abby Pulling. I think what's quite funny, having worked on a lot of scholarships for young people over the years, is inevitably you get the females that come up to you and say, "Oh, well, you'll give me more coverage, won't you? Because I'm a girl."
Yeah.
Abby actually did that. Abby Pulling did that. And I said, well, no, we're gender neutral. ITV, as best we can, try to be gender neutral. And it's still difficult, but it's still a story, isn't it? If Jade Edwards goes out and gets pole, and Jade's a race-winning driver, and Mazda's back in, the Lydia's one in Minis, in Coopers. But it's still a story at the minute. And we'll be totally gender neutral when it isn't a story.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it will soon not be a story, but look, everyone's going to wait for that F1 driver, first female F1 driver, and that will make absolute waves, and we know it will, and they'll be the biggest. And that's what I think the point is, where people go, oh, well, it's easier. Because everyone's going to want to be on that car. Everyone's going to want to be in that team. And absolutely. It's so hard. They're forgetting. People that are saying, oh, it's easy from a sponsorship point of view are obviously forgetting the absolute hard work and task it is to actually be a racing driver. Because, like you say, they've got to go through absolutely judged. I think we can't relate, because but absolutely, I 100%. I've got a daughter, and I'd like for her to be able to do absolutely anything, regardless of what it is. definitely not one of these people. Oh, because you're a girl, maybe don't do that. Like, it's like you can do what you want. And this is the thing. Like, but I do take that point. I do actually agree. I think it's actually harder in many respects. I think most. And the fact if they get to the pinnacle, and then sponsorship becomes easier as a factor because of the first, then so be it. That's just the way of the world. There's some people that are able to bring on sponsors like that because of their success, and some people that aren't.
I think that, again, comes down to a lot of media training and a lot of things, what you do off track, rather than what you're doing. I mean, obviously, back drivers at the front and et cetera. But at the same time, especially at the level of, say, the Mini Coopers or your support package racing as such, what you can actually provide off track for partners and sponsors is as important, if not more, because depending on what the sponsor's looking for, but what turning up to their place, doing interviews, doing Q&As, doing this and that with staff, that is as important. If you are a really shy person, the best part is to get yourself out there more. And things like media training is massively important for that. And it's a tough. There's so much more to it than from both sides, from a partner sponsor side and from a driver's side, that you need to put together to bring it and make it work. Which I'm noticing and sort of trying to help out the driver's side, but also the partner's side. So
Do you just on that, the amount of heat that female commentators get in predominantly male sports? Well, actually, no. In actually so, for example, football, there's a massive stigma amongst friends of mine that will remain nameless, and anyone really. There's lots of people in the media that say they don't like a female commentator. And do you hear that? Do you see that? Do you think there's not too many, I guess, female commentators, main commentators, some co-commentators involved in the F1 and involved in the motorsport? So is there still that stigma, do you think, that people are against it?
It's funny, I mean, we go football again, but you're right, a lot of the football, I'm not keen on some of the female football commentators. And for me, it's pitch or tone. But there are some female commentators that I enjoy listening to in football, and great. Motorsport-wise, we've worked with loads. We've worked with Alice Powell. ITV, we gave Alice Powell a sort of break. I think she's forgotten about us now.
So many F1 paddocks now.
And doing a phenomenal job.
Of
being a pundit. So she had a break with us. Mentioned Louise Richardson had a go with that. And it's never ever been about box ticking for ITV. A lot of people say, well, you had so in the box. Absolutely not. That is definitely not the case. They're there because they can offer an insight and do the job. Obviously, we've got Jade now full time on the the team, and did some and did commentary with us on F4 last year when Gluey was away. Managing his drivers on the GT program. So that was good. And she went on to do the Porsches with David. Obviously, Lydia's been in and done stuff with us, and they've done a phenomenal job. And they've been invited back. So. If the ITV directors and showrunners are happy, then
absolutely.
Because if they're not good enough, they don't come back. So.
Absolutely, but that I feel that's the same with male or female. Like when I'm listening to football, my kids get annoyed at me because on Saturday afternoon, if we're out, football goes on the radio instead of music to see what's going on. If there's a female commentator commentating on Chelsea versus Fulham or whatever, I'm not fussed. If she's a rubbish commentator, she's a rubbish commentator. She's saying so. You know what I mean? I'd say the same about a guy. You know what I mean? Like there's terrible commentators. I'm like, I'm not him. You know what I mean? Like I hate him. Or
do they wind you up all the time though, or is it just the odd game where you get a?
No, you know what? Commentators, most of the mainstream commentators, they're good at what they do. You know what I mean? Like because it's very rare. I wouldn't really go off at Martin Tyler when he was commentating, I think, because he was pretty good, you know what I mean? But then there was a couple, I remember I was well into my Spanish football, and there was a chap, I'm never going to meet him, Rob Palmer, bless him, where he'd drive me crazy because he'd get all the players' names wrong. And I'm like, one thing I need you to do is tell me that when you saying, oh, what a great cross that was by him. It wasn't him. Like, it wasn't him. What are you talking about? Just like if you said, oh, great overtake by Camish, and it was Sutton, people will be tearing their hair out. That was the wrong Napa car you just got there.
Get a name wrong in the heat of the moment.
Agreed. Agreed. I have never done it.
Sticking up for myself here,
agreed. But I've never done the job. However, as a fan, of anything, you're going to be really critical, and that is the pressure of your job, I guess, and that's the thing. But whether it's female or male, it doesn't bother me at all. But maybe, you know, I've softened a bit. I think when everything sort of comes in new, people get a little bit sort of uppity about it. But yeah, it just doesn't matter. I was just wondering if you'll see that change in motorsport as well. You'll see main commentators be female, and I think it will just change.
One of my favourite people to listen to on the F1 side is Bernie Collins.
Oh right, yeah.
She was the Aston Martin strategist, or however you want to call it, and her insights amazing. And listening to her, and she's been given I think a bit more of like a separate episode, more behind the scenes of strategy and different things on Sky F1, and she's great, and she's on the podcast now with like the F1 podcast with Ted and Simon, and you see it and you listen to her, like you understand. She talks so normally, there's no effort in it, it's just natural for her. And everyone, I think that's why they brought her back more and more. You can see how popular she is. Yeah. And it's great, like she'll just come and say it as it is, but so everyone can understand it as well. It's just like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it now. Or why you're doing this, or why the team's doing this. Midway through a race, you'll just come on for 5 minutes and you go, oh, I get it, cool, thanks. You know, and she's great, like she's fantastic. So, yeah,
there we go.
We'll see.
I think actually one prediction, if she doesn't make it further up the ladder, Alicia Palmowski is a very cheeky young lady,
right?
And she will be a great. We did some esports stuff as we did with Lydia, and she would make a great because the banter's there,
right?
As well.
Perfect.
We can be sort of cheeky with. When she did the scholarship, it's funny, she won the Janetta scholarship. If you'll indulge me one more story. She came in and we were talking about women's sport and this, that, and the other, and she was sat down opposite us on the table and said, I said, what are your views on Extreme E? So I don't know if you know Extreme E is the thing where you got a male driver and a female driver. What do you view? Oh, it's great, I love it, it's really good, really good. I said, well, how do you think it's going to develop? Oh, I don't know, but it's really great, I love it. And then very clearly knew nothing about it. And then what we did with the Janetta scholarship was previous year's champion comes back and helps us judge the following year. Right. It's not part of the prize, because it's not really a prize working with me and whoever, but they get the opportunity to come back. And she came back and she said, I've got to be honest, got something to tell you. What's that? She said, I told you a bit of a fib last year. She said, I didn't know anything about Extreme E. I said, we didn't know.
We saw through it.
Watched a bit of that. It's mental.
Yeah.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. It really is.
Yeah, but there we go.
She'll be good. She'll have a good future as a pundit and a commentator if they let her do it herself.
Yeah, that's it as well. Yeah. Be yourself. Oh, you know what? No pies. No pies. However, ask the question.
What is your favourite sweet and savoury pie?
Sweet and savoury pie.
Oh, right. What's your favourite sweet?
And then Sophia, don't mix them.
Steak pie?
Yes.
Steak pie?
That's mine.
Rhubarb.
Oh.
Have you had a rhubarb before?
Rhubarb. I've had about apple and rhubarb. You get that, didn't you?
Pie, or is that crumble?
Don't mention everyone that says crumble can leave. We asked pie.
Yeah.
I like an apple crumble.
Everyone loves apple crumble with custard.
I didn't ask. It's not called. Yeah, it's not called fingers and crumbles. Right. Anyway, we're gonna get
steak and ale.
Yeah.
I think like a chicken and mushroom, or chicken ham and leek, or something like that.
Oh, chicken ham.
It is lunchtime. It's the problem. We always talk about it.
And your sweet ones?
And so apple pie. Can't go wrong.
Yeah.
Apple pie and a bit of custard. Never ice cream with it. Always custard.
I did say treacle tart in the first few episodes.
Yeah, no,
you got the question about it.
Yeah. You got absolutely savage, and rightly so. Yeah. But there we go. We'll wrap it up, I think. Thank you very much, Richard,
appreciate you coming on.
For coming on, and obviously thanking you, Tommy, for being my co-host.
No
as
problem.
it were. And then we'll go on to episode 15, I guess. I don't know who the guest's going to be, but it'll be someone. But yeah, really appreciate you coming on, mate. And we'll see you in, less than
a few weeks' time?
A few weeks' time.
Yeah, thanks ever so much for asking me along.
No worries. No worries. There we go. That is it for another episode. That is a wrap.
Success.
There we go.
Success.
Done.